open and transparent trading deal and cutting EU red tape. Europe needs reform.
Hello everybody and welcome to Strasbourg for my April video blog. Well, today we've been talking about fishing. We've been looking at the rules around the new fishing obligations, the landing obligations, commonly known to all of us as the discard ban. Obviously, we've made the rules. The fishermen are no longer allowed to discard, but there are lots of small rules and regulations around that we've been looking at and making sure that everything's in order so that we can actually get that working. We've also been looking at a number of quite important files to me. The first one has been plastic bags, which I've spoken about before, and that's finally finished its legislative process. I'm not entirely happy with the outcome because the outcome insists that member states have to choose one of two options. One option is to charge for plastic bags and the other option is to ban them completely. Now, we in the UK, we're doing that anyway because you probably know that in March an order was issued from the UK Parliament, having looked at and passed a new rule that plastic bags in England would be charged for. That brings us into line with Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So we've already made our own rules, so we're already compliant with this piece of legislation. Despite that, however, I set a whip to abstain on it because whatever I think of the good or bad motives behind it, I don't think it's right for Europe to compel its 28 member states to all to do the same thing. Cultures are very different in different countries and different countries need to find their own solutions, because it's only if we find our own solutions that people will actually do the things that we want them to do. In this case, very beneficial for the environment, most particularly in the southwest, of course, for the marine environment, because millions of tons of plastic are fished out of our sea every year, and it's having a real effect on fish and on bird life. Same principle applies to another piece of legislation we've been looking at. Actually, to call it legislation is not quite true, it's advisory, and that's the alcohol strategy. And in the alcohol strategy for Europe, which is a public health issue, I'm perfectly happy with a number of the proposals. Things like, I personally support putting the calorific content of alcoholic drinks onto bottles. Perhaps being a woman, that's something I think about a little more than others do, and I know that certainly teenage girls look very, very carefully at what of the calories they're consuming, probably much more carefully than they look at the alcoholic units. So to put them off because alcohol is fattening, listen, let's try any way we can to try and stop binge drinking, which we know is a real problem for our teenagers. So all of this is good stuff, but again, I make the point that this is all advisory and that's the way it should stay. Member states, we all know from our holidays across Europe, don't we, that the drinking cultures in different member states are completely different. You know, from your Belgian drinking extremely strong beer, which in the UK would be considered very alcoholic, down to an Italian who is drinking habitually a couple of glasses of red wine every day and perfectly healthily, we're told. In fact, we're told that's beneficial. So it's different depending on where you live, your lifestyle and your diet, and that's the way that we want to keep it. So we will be voting for advisory only on that piece of legislation. And the last thing that we've done is some work on biofuels. Now you will recall that biofuels they replace petrol and diesel. And the idea was that we would reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and on oil by making a mandatory requirement, for example, for diesel cars, that 10% of the diesel going into the fuel was mixed and it was 10% bio. This rule was made in 2008 and we have a couple of refineries in the UK already producing, having made huge investment as you can imagine. Then the Commission decided they would summarily change that and they put a cap of 5%. Now, I was opposed to this, if only on the principle that you can't put one piece of legislation in, induce investment, and then pull the rug out from under their feet. This is the sort of thing that gets Europe into a very, very bad reputational situation. So we've managed to get that reversed. It's now 7%, which from the UK's point of view is fine because we hadn't invested in capacity for more than that. But these are the sorts of things which MEPs are often told, what do we do? These are the sorts of things that we do behind the scenes, which I hope you will appreciate are beneficial for Britain. So, of course, as I speak, half of my mind is on what's happening in the UK. We're currently now 8 days away from our general election. I can't wait to get back tomorrow so that I can get on with campaigning, and I know that a lot of you who are listening to me now have been campaigning like mad over the last few weeks, so thank you so much for all your effort. Let's look forward to next May, and I hope it will be a good result.